Well, thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top Australian executives. Today, I have with me Dr. Brandon Gien. He is the CEO of Good Design Australia, and we're very lucky to be in his offices today. Dr. Gien, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, I wanted to first of all ask you, what is Good Design Australia? What do you do here? What's your role? And before we get into the awards, what does good design mean?
A lot of questions there.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, Good Design Australia is an international design promotion organisation. Our main role is to run the Australia's Good Design Awards. We're currently open for entries across 7 main disciplines, and they're quite broad. We look at things coming through under the product design banner, digital design, communications design, everything from architectural design to we now have a category for business model design, which I'd like to talk to you a bit more about as well, and a completely new area for social innovation, which is again a completely new way of looking at how design actually impacts society and ultimately creates a better world. So every year we run the awards. We get a whole bunch of very interesting products covering a very broad range of categories coming through. We invite Australian and international judges to come to Australia. We spend a week pulling the products apart, looking at everything from how well the products have been designed, things such as form and function and usability. And
you were telling me you go to extreme lengths to really test these products to make sure that they qualify.
Well, looking at them from a design perspective, and what our judges tend to do is to really dive into the product from a user perspective. So if it's a baby product that a mum is going to use, we almost try and jump into that world and say, well, let's actually try and use this thing as that end user would use it and experience it. And it's incredibly interesting because we get everything from motor cars to boats to kettles and toasters and fridges and vacuum cleaners and
it's almost the whole gamut of technology.
Correct, but the lens that we look at these things through is through that design lens. How well has the product been designed? What materials have been selected? What are they the right ones? Are they harmful to the environment? How much thought has gone into the actual user interface? How much thought has gone into understanding who the customer is? What price point has the product been pitched at? Everything from safety is a big issue as well. Are there things that the designers have looked at to not only make sure that the product is safe, but actually make it safe for the user as well? So we almost have quite a lot of fun with the product. So let's look at it from the eyes of a stupid person and say, well, what harm potentially can this product cause you if you misuse it in a particular way? So it's incredibly interesting, and it's I've been doing it for the last 20 odd years, and in that space you get to see some pretty amazing stuff.
I mean, that's a good way of explaining. Is there like a one sentence description of what good design? Can you distill it down into a sentence, or is it just too important to?
You could write a book about what good design is, and
I think we know good design when we see it and feel it and experience it.
There's so many beautiful examples of how people have described what good design is. I generally, I love, in terms of summing it up in one word, a very famous Japanese designer who's now passed away, Kenji Ekwan, designed the first bullet train in Japan, the soy sauce Kikkoman bottle.
Yes.
I asked him what good design was, and he thought about it for a while, and he said, it's beautiful. And when he then started to describe to me what beautiful is, it's not just a visual, it's not just the aesthetic, it's actually a lot deeper than that. A sense of beauty is how beautifully something works, how beautifully it looks, what feeling it gives you when you actually use the product. So there's this word to me just encapsulates so much about what I think good design is. It's something that is actually beautiful, and it puts the user first. When you interact with a product and it leaves you with a smile on your face, that's beautiful.
You want it to surprise and delight you in a good way, not the surprise of having a virus or having something crash. You want to be surprised and delighted.
Totally, and it's I think that the unfortunate thing about good design is that it's it's very much invisible. You only notice it when it doesn't work.
When it's not there.
And you pick this thing up and you go, who designed this? But when it doesn't work and it just seamlessly is part of your life, it's almost like electricity. You just flick the light on, the lights go on. You don't really understand what goes on in the background. That's beautiful design.
They do say that technology succeeds when it's invisible to your life. It's just there.
It becomes
so it's the same.
ubiquitous.
It's the same with design. I can see the website there, which is the front page of the Good Design Australia website. When do the awards happen this year, and when do the entries close?
So the entries do actually close on Friday, the 20th of March, which is coming up very soon. So we're getting a last-minute rush of incredible entries that are coming through. And our judging takes place mid-April, and then the biggest celebration and the announcement of the awards takes place during Vivid, which is the 28th and 29th of May in Sydney. And that's a big event. That's the big industry black tie event that everyone comes to find out who's actually received the top prizes.
Looking forward to coming along and seeing. I haven't actually been before, so but from what I've already seen, it's going to be a real treat, and surely we're going to have some incredible products this year. So, what are some examples, some great examples of contemporary and historic Australian design?
Well, as you know, the awards are international, so and that was it's an important distinction thing to make. Is to about 3 or 4 years ago, we opened up the awards to include internationally designed products on the Australian market. And one of the reasons we did that is because we wanted to make sure that we were benchmarking Australian design against the best in the world. So now when companies do enter the awards, when Australian companies enter the awards and they win a Good Design Award, they can quite rightly say, hey, this is not just the best in Australia. This is actually the best product in the world. And it's made a significant difference in terms of lifting the standard up of Australian design. We've got some incredibly talented, innovative, inventive people in Australia. Our design sector is up there with the best in the world. I think we're beginning to understand that design plays such a critical role in taking an invention, taking an idea, and turning it into a commercially successful product. And as you would know, with technology, there's some brilliant technology that doesn't come onto the market. People come up with fantastic ideas. I almost say that's the easy bit. The hard bit is taking that technology and turning it into a desirable product, and that's where design comes in. They actually look at it again from the user perspective. It's not a bunch of wires and a bunch of technology. It's actually, how do we take this and turn it into a commercially successful product? Now, back to your question about Australian design.
I mean, we all know the Hills hoist, for example, and I think you have Mr. Hill's granddaughter as one of your speakers.
Absolutely, Jenny Hill Ling is the great granddaughter of Lance Hill, who founded Hills Industries. The Hills hoist is
iconic.
Is the most iconic, I think, example of an Australian product, that is done brilliantly. Hills is now valued at in excess of $1 billion Aussie dollars. It's an incredibly successful product and company. But there's numerous other examples. We've got Cochlear, for example, the best in the world at what they do. Hearing implants for people who suffer from hearing loss. There's another company, ResMed, who do brilliant stuff in the sleep apnea department, consistently enter the awards and do really, really well in that space. And they are the best in the world at what they do because they get designed. It's not just brilliant technology, it's actually been beautifully designed as well. I've got everything from a clever peg. This is a South Australian company that teamed up with an industrial design consultancy down there as well to come up with a better peg. And we've all heard the story, if you design a better mousetrap, the world comes beating to your door.
Path to your door,
These guys designed a better peg, and it's pretty simple. It's a peg with a hook on it, so you can actually hang extra things on it. But they didn't stop there. They looked very carefully at the material that was used, make sure
because often pegs will disintegrate in the sun.
This is, if it can survive in Australia, it can survive anywhere in the world.
That's it.
A stainless steel clip, and it works absolutely beautifully as well. There's another little company here called Black Magic Design. Now, this is 2-3 years ago. It's a cinematic camera. 4K,
you were telling me?
4K, so essentially the quality here allows you to shoot video that can be played directly in a cinematic quality.
And I can see on the side there you can actually pop an SSD drive right inside, so it really is for absolute beautifully done cinematic work.
Correct. Now, this is an Australian company who did this, and they've hit the market. They're doing incredibly well. an equivalent camera of that quality is 30-40K. They brought the price down to about $3,000. So it's putting professional cinema grade quality gear in the hands of people. This was last year, so same camera again. They shrunk it down to something like this. Blackmagic design, very, very, very high quality stuff. I like to call them the sort of the Silicon Valley heroes of Australia.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
And that's incredible. I mean, you can really see that in just a couple of years, the incredible advancements they made.
Over here, this is actually a cool little product for people who the old fishing reel. And again, you know what I love about this is you think that here is a product that's been sitting there just waiting to be redesigned. You apply a clever design process to it. You can see here, Karen can pick that up, that's where the fishing line is stored. There's even a little fishing line cutter in here that lets you cut the line off. And when you're all finished, the hook and everything gets folded back up here. Again, selling these things, it's an Australian product, doing really, really well. And again, as I said, it's just add a piece of design to something and it turns it into a beautifully desirable product, and a great example of Aussie innovation again. A company called Concave, these guys are in Melbourne.
I mean, that looks like a fancy Nike or a Reebok, but
it does. What's clever here is they've actually, if you can, camera can pick that up, it's probably better if you look at it along
I can see
there.
That,
There's a slight curve in here, and this is all a bit of a hardened plate. What these guys have done an incredible amount of research into how people kick a football, and they've actually developed a plate over here that allows you to kick with greater accuracy. And what a competitive market! You know, you're going up against the biggest brands in the world, the Nikes, the Reeboks, the Adidases of the world. This is an Australian firm wanting to take it up to them. So again,
and you can see they've done something which is innovative. It hasn't been, and they even look as though they've redesigned the spikes.
Absolutely, and again they did this. They teamed up with an industrial design consultancy down in Melbourne, and you know try to bring this product to market. So and the list goes on here. This is a speaker system. It's actually designed in Brisbane, would you believe?
Wow.
And I've heard this thing play. It's fantastic. It's again, the quality is up there with Bose, Harman Kardon, some of the biggest brands in the world.
And it looks incredibly futuristic. It's like the part of a spaceship or something.
Absolutely. So we have we have some brilliance here in Australia, and I think that when I go overseas and tell people that I'm from Australia and Australian design, I say, wow, you guys are really you're not sort of confined into your way of thinking. It's very much you're very experimental. There's this sort of sense of having to have a go and being a lot more comfortable in taking risks in the products that we design as well. And I think more importantly, we also have much more of an environmental spin on the way that we actually design products here, and I think that's a good place to be.
So. You know, we see some, I mean, you probably answered this question to some degree with many of the things you've said, but we see Samsung placing great emphasis on design with its new Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge, which are upcoming. In fact, to your left there, we've got the Samsung Galaxy, the Gear VR headset, which is an incredible piece of design in itself and an amazing virtual reality experience. I'll get your thoughts on that in a moment. But, you know, we see a lot of companies saying they're putting design first. We see companies saying they want to become a design-led company. And that's very different from just hiring a whole stack of designers. It's a bit like Silicon Valley, which has always been very technology-led, but now they too are getting into design. So, you know, in addition to what you've said, where is design going for the world and for companies and for people?
Yeah, you know, you're right. I think I've been in this space for the last 20-odd years, and if you ask me 10 years ago, perhaps even 5 years ago, where design was, I think it probably wasn't on the radar of most companies the way that it is today. Apple have done a brilliant job. I call them the best billboard advertisement for design in the world. They've you know, design is absolutely central. It's right at the core of Apple. If you take design out, Apple doesn't exist, in my opinion. And it is now one of the world's, if not the world's most valuable company, because they get design, and it's not a sugarcoating process that they've sprinkled on the end.
At the end,
of the product development process.
It was from the very beginning.
It's not just applied to. There's a certain department in Apple that just designs a particular range of products, or and there's another department over there that designs their websites or designs their sort of service offering.
It's a mindset.
It is a complete mindset. It's a lens by which they look at everything through, and no stone is left unturned. Every single thing has been very purposely designed.
Yeah.
And where I think companies now are getting it is they think to themselves, well, hang on, what's the Apple formula? It's not the Apple formula. It's a design formula. It is a design lens that companies are now seeing, that it's not just about having to design more desirable products or more desirable user-friendly services. It's actually about how we design our business, how we design our business model, making sure that all the little things are connected in a way that makes this business operate as a system. And that to me is the very, very exciting part of where design is actually headed. You've got corporates now, big corporations going, we can't afford not to take design seriously. It's not a matter of saying, oh, we might just sprinkle on it, as I said before. We actually have to make sure that it's integrated into our entire business, into our entire strategy.
And this is what you were saying before, that design is now an integral part of business strategy. And that's one of the examples.
Yeah, and I think it's a great thing, because there's as consumers, we're all consumers and end users of technology and products. There's a multitude of stuff that's available to us. It's great to be a consumer now, because you walk into a store and we have choice. We have so much choice. There's an abundance of choice. And the companies that don't take design seriously, I think, are going to be left behind, because consumers are becoming smarter. They're becoming more diligent with regards to what they spend their money on, and they also understand design, so they can pick a product up very quickly and say, well, look, this has been well designed, it's good quality. And I think with the advent of consumer reviews as well on the internet, before you've made your purchasing decision, you actually have seen what everybody else is saying.
And real world people.
And that there's a great deal of value that's been placed on that. So I think that it is a time where companies almost there's nowhere to hide anymore. They have to design better products. They have to design better services. And they have to make sure that they do that in a professional sense. It's not about, as you say, hiring more designers and making sure that that's going to be the thing that'll make the problem go away. No, it's actually about taking it seriously, so it's at the heart and soul of your business.
It's almost like an evolution of human thinking, really. We're moving to this next level, and everyone has to be on that same page. Otherwise, there'll just be a Chinese clone factory in Shenzhen, pumping out cheap clones that people pay $5 for and then discard after a few goes, because it's not as good as the real thing. And I just wanted to ask you, you were saying before about Silicon Valley companies were very technology-led, but now they're taking design much more seriously. What was that statement that you were... It dovetails into this.
Silicon Valley now is hiring more designers than software engineers, and I think that's a really cool trend that's happening, because that's again the heart of technology, coming out and saying we need design. Venture capital companies now look very seriously at the composition of companies to say, well, what design input do they have? Do they have people who are sitting on the board who are actually designers, have a background in design?
Well, it's like security. So many things are now board level issues, and design is now a board level issue. You wouldn't have thought so many years ago.
And it's not, I think the interesting thing is that it's not just companies that are producing the physical product. It's not just companies that are in the business of producing tangible manufactured products. It's also companies that are in that service space. We look at apps as an example. The tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of apps that are available. Very quickly, it's design that makes those apps great, makes those ones the most successful. They've actually got to serve a need, they've got to be functional, they've got to be well designed. So, and you look at the service sector, here in Australia we've got more than 71% of our GDP is from the service sector. Design is going to be the thing that makes one service stand out from another. So it's a great time. I think it's a fantastically interesting time for designers to really start looking at the world much broadly as well as business.
And just back onto the headset, I mean, 20 plus years ago when you were a student, I mean, you were doing everything by hand, with paper and pens, and of course then, you had CAD technologies, you were telling me, and nowadays we have these virtual reality headsets and Microsoft's headset. I mean, how do you think this is going to unleash the creativity of the designers of the future?
Design, the process of design, I was telling you before, when I graduated some 20 odd years ago, we were still using drawing boards and pencils and rubbers, and CAD systems were slowly being introduced, and that sort of changed things dramatically. If you look at where the world is now, and you've got 3D printing, so we can quickly knock up something in a CAD model.
Rapid
we
prototyping.
can have it printed out in the corner of the office, snap it off, and actually have a look at it. But then you've got this stuff, which allows you to visually not only interact with what it is that you're designing, but have a collaborative approach. So you could actually be having a project in the middle of the table that's virtually there. Everybody, someone in the US and someone in Japan and someone back here in Australia, all contributing to the actual design of it in a virtual space.
In a shared experience,
and the lead time for doing that is now shrunk all the way, right down. So where it might take you 6 months to get a product to market through the design process, it might take you a week now, because you're actually getting a lot more input from different parts of the world. I think it's phenomenal. It really is. I mean, what blows me away about this is, if you think of the very first mobile phone that came out, the old Motorola brick,
the bricks,
and now they've shrunk right down. What is this going to look like in 5 and 10 and 20 years time?
Well, like the glasses on your face right now.
So it's brilliant. I think we're right at that cusp of technology really exploding, and hopefully exploding with design right behind it, so that we don't just have this advent of fantastic stuff, but it's brilliantly designed as well.
Now, you're also the president of the International Council of Societies for Industrial Design, and in a coup, you are in the 60-year history, you are the first Australian president. Congratulations. So please tell us a little bit more about the International Council and what its role is in technology and design for a better world.
Well, the ICSID, as it's called, is actually the World Organization for Industrial Design. It's almost approaching its 60th anniversary in 2017. And I've had the honour and pleasure of serving on that board for the last 8 years, and the last 2 years as president, as you said, the first Australian president. I think what's great about that is that Australia's finally now
represented
at the point where we're sitting at the table at this World Council. So the organisation is really responsible for promoting and protecting the interests of professional industrial design around the world. Really looking at very carefully at how we push a new narrative for design, and this is all about how we elevate design to the highest level. How is design actually going to create a better world? And this is the discussion that we're having. And you mentioned before about consumers being more aware of good design and not really going out there and purchasing stuff that might last you for 3 or 4 days and then you end up throwing it in the bin. That is exactly what we're looking at very, very closely, saying how can professional design ensure that consumers understand what it is as well. If we think of the environmental aspects of design, when design goes wrong, we're creating a lot of landfill. Many times people say to me, you guys should call yourselves landfill designers, because that's actually what you're doing. That's a negative for the industry. So what we're trying to do is to really promote the value of professional design to business, to government, and more so to the general public. And ultimately, as I said, position design at this highest level, and look at how it can actually create not only better products, but better systems, better services, better businesses, ultimately a better society and a better world.
Wonderful. So just to change tack just a tiny little bit, I always like to ask the people I'm interviewing if they can share the best piece of advice that they've ever received to help them where they get there, to get where you are today. People always have to think about it for a moment.
Look,
maybe something from design school or something.
I was
from a
at
teacher.
University actually in my final year, and we hosted an old boys reunion. And a gentleman came up to the bar. I was working behind the bar at the time, and he must have been well into his 80s. And I asked him that same question. What's your best piece of advice for a young university graduate like myself? And he said, it's quite simple, really. Listen, and listen.
Very good.
And I walked away from that thinking, it's kind of a bit strange.
Yeah.
But what it made me think about is to listen to people, because there's always somebody else who's going to know more about something than you, and be the first person just to listen, because there's so much information out there in the world. And if you can just stop to listen, be like a sponge, and continually learn and actually take as much info as you can, you're always going to grow and learn more.
So, thank you very much for that. That's really good. It's always wonderful to hear what people have to share, because it's great lessons for us all, and hopefully some people actually do it. It would be a better world just from designing good listeners. Now, so I was just going to ask if you had any final messages, not just for iTWire readers and viewers, but for the current and future designers out there today.
Look, I think that I'll start with future designers, because that's my space.
Yeah.
I continually tell graduates coming out of design school, there's one thing that you have to be when you're a designer, and that's passionate. You have to be passionate about what it is that you do. No disrespect to accountants and lawyers, they all serve a very particular role in society, but passion is this unnerving thing that you have. You're so passionate about what it is that you do.
You can see it in people.
I haven't met a designer who isn't passionate.
Yeah.
You have to believe in it, and you actually have to believe that you're not just a cog in a wheel spitting out more stuff, that you're actually doing something of value, and you're changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Whether it be designing a medical product that might save someone's life, or a consumer product that brings a smile to someone's face. Be passionate about it.
Well, changing the world, really.
Yeah,
it's like Steve Jobs was saying, putting a dent. He wanted to put a dent in the universe. I mean, that's passion.
Well, it comes back to probably one of my favourite quotes of, Steve Jobs is the craziest people in the world are the ones that usually change it. So,
yeah, and he was also talking about for every yes, there was 1,000 no's, which is another good tenet of design, saying no to things that just shouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
For simplicity.
And simplicity is key. We spoke before about good design, and I think that's what designers are very good at, is sifting through the complexity, whether it be a business model or whether it be the design of a peg. Actually saying, how can we make it more simple? How can we make it easier? How can we actually strip away all the stuff, so what you're left with is the bare bones?
Yes.
And it's almost the ability to know when to stop designing. I think that's probably one of the hardest things as well, not over-designing something.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Brandon Gien, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck with the awards, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.